D&D, the Draconomancy.
Hi guys, Grub Slime back at you again with another episode of D&D! Hooray! That's right, going to be continuing on the campaign series that we have. Now, as you may have seen in part 1 and 2, the stuff that's happened, now we continue to part 3. So basically, after, I get my ass handed to me by Dennis with his freaking, boat and the dragon. So what happens is, after we essentially recover from that battle, and we bring back a morph to the, back to the council, what we do is, after I'm finally healed up, we go to the council room and we discuss a way to save our other party member, Pesanius, I believe his name is, the one that's basically been gone the entire campaign. Now, because he's trapped in the underworld this entire time. Right? So during this, my sister's character joins in. It's like a tiefling bard called Aiko, but Aiko, but don't feel much for it because it's kind of dumb. Now what happens is we're told by the council we have to go to see Merifrax, who's the white dragon that we've beaten the crap out of. We have to go to the prison that we're keeping him and other Scouran soldiers in to interrogate them. So we go there, we go to the cell, as we walk past we see other Scouran soldiers we've defeated and captured, and at the very end we meet Merifrax in his human form again. And what happens is quite fun because we ask him how's life in prison, and he says to us it's not too bad because he's got food, comfort, booze, and all the sex he can enjoy. And we realise that there are only male soldiers here, and we look inside the corner of his cell to see that there's actually a Scouran soldier huddled in the corner, terrified, like like that, and we literally look at him like, what the fuck, dude, did you rape him? And it's like, yeah. We're like, fucking hell, I feel really sorry for that guy. And this is the bit where I ask to the party, he's like, hang on a second, wait. So he's polymorphed into human form, and the DM's like, yeah? Like, so does that mean he has a human dick, or does he have his dragon dick? And he's like, I'm not going to tell you, you're just going to fill it in yourself with the blanks. And I'm just like, shit, now I'm actually curious. So we have to ask Amarth to assist us into getting to this location that we need to go to get to the underworld, which happens to be on an island, and it's much faster to fly on a dragon, really. So he says, sure, I'll help you out. In return, I want to be set free. And we're like, okay, that's not too bad as long as you don't return to your team, your empire. He's like, no, I don't want to return there again because I failed once before. They're gonna kill me if I go back there. And I'm just like, yeah, that makes sense. They did kill the other dragons, like the blue one. So we were told that we have to go find another character as well, a knight who supposedly is going to help us out in this journey. So we go back to the festival lands and we meet this guy called Lunaire. And for those of you that are clearly just going, well, I can guess where this is going, yes, it's essentially Solaire, but for the sun, for the moon instead of the sun. Yeah. But still, he's a very interesting character, and it's quite funny, because as soon as we go to meet him, Amarth's like, hang on a second, I was informed that it would be a kobold. And he's like, well, I'm not a kobold, I'm simply a knight who enjoys worshipping the moon. It's very beautiful, isn't it? And he plays this character really well. So what happens next is we all go, okay, well, we need to go there now. So Merifrax turns into his dragon form, we all jump on, and we fly straight to this island. While we're going towards the island, Saltram decides to come up with another one of his quips. In his eyes, Saltram, that sort of thing, as he does quite a bit, as you've probably guessed from watching this series. And what happens is Merifrax is like, for crying out loud, I don't like this. This is complete stupidness, how do you put up with him? So Dennis is planning on pushing him. Merifrax looks behind him onto his back to see that he can tell that Dennis is going to do this. So he purposely goes closer to the ocean and slows down a little bit, and then Dennis pushes Saltram right off of Merifrax into the ocean. And the rest of us land safely onto the island and just wait for him to wash up ashore. he merely washed up ashore a few minutes later and just goes, "It is I, Saltram, swimmer of oceans." And we're just like, oh god, you just set him up with another title, you know that? And they're like, oh, why did we do this? So after he gets himself dried off, we go to a cave that has this weird spooky mask. Well, it's a spooky face that, you know, like kind of imagine like the what is it, the Diamond in the Rough scene from Aladdin, you know, the big lion tiger, the tiger mouth opening. That's kind of what we saw, but except it was like a scary humanoid face. So we go inside and see that it's completely empty, except for a small little altar with 4 pillars, each of a different colour. I go up to investigate one of the rocks and find that there's 3 talking skulls, a blue, red, and green. And I'm like, hang on, where's the yellow one? There is no yellow one. So each of them have their own personalities, and we, you know, ask how can we get into the underworld. They say that to do so we need to get the 4 gems that were taken by some sort of woman. So we're like, okay, where does she go and how long ago was it that she did this? It's like, oh yeah, they went that direction and it's been 2 days. And we're like, well, I mean, that's kind of hard to get it then, isn't it? Because it's been 2 days, they could be anywhere by now. And he said, oh yeah, they should probably be close by, we can still sense them. And we're like, okay, why can't you guys get them? And they're like, behold, we have no fucking bodies. And we're like, okay, fair point. So we go into a pathway that leads us into like this massive cave. And at this point, we're all pretty much just advancing through torches because not all of us have dark sight. So we're going through with torches, seeing what we can do. And at this point, my sister decides, I don't know what I want to do. And I'm like, what, do you want to keep playing or something? She's like, not really. And I'm like, well, what was the point of that? You said you wanted to play D&D with us, and when we're playing D&D, you're not playing anymore. And she's like, yeah. So I'm like, fine, you could just go help Mum. So then we were like that. It was just to think, okay, we'll leave her character behind. She'll just guard the entrance for us. So we continue onwards, and at first nothing happens except there's like loads of spikes on top of the cave. You know, like what they usually do, like the spike formation that can fall down any minute. So as we're going through, Greg sees us suddenly stabbed in the head by one of these. It turns out to be some sort of spike worm. Instantly, he grabs it from his head and just crushes it with one hand. And as he continues walking forward, Dennis is a bit ahead and Saltram's lacking on the opposite side, so he's went a different direction. Dennis encounters a giant boulder, and what does he do? He wants to break it, so he tries to smash it. No effect. Turns out the armor class for this is way too high. So what happens? Oh yeah, Saltram tries to help break it with his Echo and himself. So they spend about 4 turns trying to break this thing open with 2 lower armor class, and I jokingly say, imagine you break it open and inside is the kobold that we keep on encountering with his shinies. To which everybody laughs, but then, just out of pity, the DM decides, you know what, you guys aren't going to stop trying to smash this rock, are you? And they're like, no, we're going to keep trying to smash until it smashes. And he's like, you know what, fuck it, fine. And he just says it breaks open after the last hit, and it just reveals 3 golden nuggets, which you can use to pay the kobold for his bags of shinies. Which is fucking hilarious. So Dennis decides to continue on the pathway to follow with us, and gets his head hit by one of the spike worms. Instead of Greg sees doing it, he pulls it out of his head, and instead of trying to kill it, he decides, you know what? Considering the fact that this thing does a shit ton of damage, it can't do anything while it's on the ground. The only way it can attack is if it falls down and smashes someone using the force of gravity. And because of his strength, he could use it as a javelin. So he keeps it with him. We go to the next area, and as we slowly open this door, we look inside and see these statues. Lunaire instantly runs up to one and goes, oh, look at this statue, look how cool it looks. Oh, it looks so lifelike. And I decide to do a perception check and find that there's actually a throne of statues. To the point where we realise, oh shit, this is a Medusa lair, isn't it? So while the rest of us are trying to figure this out, Dennis has walked off by himself near a chest. And before he opens it, he decides, you know what, actually, those statues seem a bit strange. So he grabs the frickin' like spike worm and tilts his eye up to the ceiling because he notices that the statues were looking upwards. So he points it up to the eye of the spike worm to the ceiling. It turns to stone, And we literally realise, oh shit, this is definitely Medusa in this fucking room. And we hear her say, welcome to my lair. And we're like, okay, we're fucked. This is how we die. Oh my god, what do we fucking do? I'll tell you what we did. Because my character is actually a worshipper of Farrakha, who turns out to be, you know, the frickin' god of affliction in this world. Which essentially makes her, you know, like, the god of, like, Medusas and stuff like that. So essentially my god's, like, anything involving serpent-like creatures is in her domain. So essentially, like, poison's her domain, venom's her domain, stuff like that. But, so, like, Hydra, obviously, the Medusa, obviously, anything that's a snake is in her domain. Meaning, I cannot harm them in any way, or I lose piety. Because this is the Medusa, I can't do shit. So I say to the Medusa, it's like, wait, fair Medusa, I am a worshipper of Farrakha, you know, the god who, you know, protects you. We merely wish to enter through your domain in order to find the gems that we have found that have been stolen. And then we wish to leave you in peace. And she's like, oh, well, I have those gems. And we're like, could we have them? And then she's like, no, unless you give me something in exchange. Now, because it turns out Grexis discovers, he does an insight check to find out this is actually a Medusa. I can't remember her name, it's something with a H, but she's apparently been a very cruel reputation. And she knows Grexis very well, yeah. Apparently, some of her victims even mention Grexis by name. To the point where Grexis players like, why the fuck does everyone know who I am? Like, literally, like, everywhere we go, someone has heard of Grexis. And it's just so fucking funny thinking about that. So, as we continue this, we're like, well, you know, we kind of just need those to go to the underworld. And she's like, no. And we're like, well, because this bitch is a cruel Medusa, meaning that nothing we give her will be substantial unless it means one or two of us. I consider that we're trying to save one guy. That's not really a price we're willing to pay. So I try and do a bluff and say, well, I don't wish to harm you, but unfortunately we have members among us who are not of our god that will possibly hurt you. We have two specifically strong fighters that could. And at this point, Grexie's like, shut the fuck up, dude. Don't tell her that shit. And she literally is all invested in this now, saying like, ooh, you have two strong fighters, do you? Well, I'll have to kill you and take you into my collection. And we're like, oh shit. And they're like, shit, what the fuck are you doing? While we're doing this and distracting her, Dennis is trying to open up this chest, which turns out to be a mimic. And before this mimic can clamp down and eat him, he's literally caught this bottom one with his left hand and his top jaw with his right hand, and instead of this thing being able to just chomp down on him, he's literally, without any effort, just pulling back its fucking mouth, and he just rips this fucking mimic in half. And mimics aren't small, they're pretty big. So essentially, you've got a massive fucking mouth about to eat you, and he just fucking rips it in half, and it's dead. It's the most devastating way for a mimic to die. Death by just getting ripped in half is fucking hilarious. And then he rummages through the mimic's guts and finds the 4 gems we were looking for. And then we're like, oh, cool, you got him. And he shouts, fucking run. So, and because he's ahead of us, we literally start running towards over to the exit. And well, before he leaves the door, he's like, oh, look, another chest. So he runs to grab this chest, opens it up and finds nothing inside. Like, literally, not even a mimic. So he's pretty pissed off, but he's like, you know what, fuck it, I'm taking this chest. So he takes the chest with him, runs back out the freaking lair, and by that time, we're just catching up to him. As we escape the Medusa's lair, Amarth, who's the Dragonborn companion that we have with us, seals off the exit with, like, a fireball that just smashes this rubble of rock on the ground, so she can't get out. But she does shout out to an iron golem to attack us.